Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes, and I'd like to talk about what I believe to be the most underrated MMORPG in the world. Now, regular viewers will know I love MMORPGs. I've played them for the majority of my life, and I've seen the endgame of the vast majority of the more popular ones. World of Warcraft, RuneScape, Terra, Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online, Neverwinter. I've played quite a few. But there's one I played for thousands of hours, immensely enjoyed, and yet is either completely unknown or actively disliked by the community, which in my eyes is completely unfair, because, in my opinion, this is the most underrated MMORPG in the world. That game is Runes of Magic. Now, before you rush to the comments to explain why I'm wrong, give me a moment to defend my opinion. When I say underrated, I don't want to do what most people do, which is actually pick a very popular game and argue how it should be more popular, or a game that wasn't commercially successful but was highly critically acclaimed. Shadow of the Colossus, for example, is not underrated. It's considered one of the best games ever. Guild Wars 1, Simpsons Hit and Run, Modern Warfare 2, SSX Tricky. These games are not underrated. Runes of Magic, however, is. A Metacritic score of 71 and a user score of 5.9 is the very definition of mediocre and forgettable, but let me explain why this is unfair. Runes of Magic is a traditional MMORPG in the style of classic World of Warcraft. Third-person fantasy adventure, tab targeting system, hotbar with skills, and the traditional tank, healer, and DPS Holy Trinity playstyle. You kill mobs, defeat elite enemies, explore dungeons, and level up. As you level up, you'll unlock more skills to be added to your hotbar and make combat more complex. There's crafting, the ability to add rune stones to enhance your equipment, or break equipment down for materials and skills, the standard fantasy fare. In fact, if you were to put generic fantasy MMORPG into a game-creating machine, then set the specifics of that imaginary game to similar to World of Warcraft but not World of Warcraft, then you'd basically get Runes of Magic. I'm saying all this so you understand. I know it's generic, and I know on the surface it looks like an inferior copy. Despite being a major fan of the game, I'm not blinded to its glaring faults. With that established, let's talk about 10 reasons why this gem of a game is criminally underrated. 1. It's completely free. You can download the game from the main website or from Steam. Both launchers play on the same servers, and both are completely free. There's an in-game cash shop, but it's not essential at all. You can play from the start of the game through to the end without spending a single penny. If you're looking for what is essentially free World of Warcraft, this is it. 2. The multi-class system. In Runes of Magic, just like many other MMORPGs, you'll pick a class, which is essentially a dominant combat style. Then once you reach level 10, you'll be able to pick another. Combining these two classes with a primary and a secondary will produce a different combination of skills, and you can switch between them at a major city or at your house. A mage primary, priest secondary will gain access to all the mage skills and a few minor priest skills. A priest primary mage secondary will be allowed to use the full priest spellbook with a few mage supporting spells. You level both classes independently, and once they both reach level 20, you'll unlock a third class slot. You can then train each class individually, combining any two of them to produce a specific build that works for you, and swap them freely. If you need more healing in a dungeon, stick a priest primary and whatever you like secondary. If your team need more DPS and then the enemies are hitting hard, go with rogue primary and knight secondary, giving you burst DPS but the support spells to tank through the damage. It's truly the most versatile class system I've played, second only to the freedom of the Final Fantasy XIV's job system. 3. The game doesn't begin at endgame. There's a common theme with MMORPGs that the leveling experience is simply a hurdle to be jumped over to get to the real game, which always begins at maximum level. And while Runes of Magic does have a lot of max level content, you won't see it for months, because the early and mid game is also just as enjoyable. Teaming up with another player on the same quest as you will allow you to share the quest and benefit from each other. If you kill a quest enemy, it will count for your partner too. A huge amount of the dungeons do have level recommendations, but not level requirements, meaning you can take your lower level friends in and try your best to kill the boss. A level 20 tank and level 20 DPS can be supported by a level 10 healer. You'll just have to be more careful with what you do. The main story questline also gives you some of the best weapons, items and armor you'll need. Just by playing the game, you will slowly gather and gain all the equipment you could want. Plus, special quests often reward set items, which are special equipment pieces that grant additional bonuses when worn as a complete set. And these will begin to show up for you from level 10. 4. The Holy Trinity really matters. Tanks in this game can really tank. They can stand up to the mobs and bosses, but can't put out much damage at all. My mage is an absolute glass cannon, huge range DPS, but 2 hits and I'm dead. The healer can restore so much health, but can't deal with enemies very well at all. When taking on group content, your role really does matter. This will appeal to the old school raiders among you, when not every class was generic and similar, when your role and positioning was key to winning a fight. The Holy Trinity really is essential. 5. Fast travel is limited. The ability to instantly move from place to place serves to make an MMORPG feel smaller, and people often complain about how the good old days of travelling across the world made the game feel epic and created a sense of adventure. Well, okay, here's the perfect middle ground. You can mark any location using the item Marking Ink, then instantly return to it using a transport rune. However, both these things are expensive, using either in-game gold or real money. So unless you're willing to spend the cash, you're going to be jumping on your mount and physically travelling wherever you need to get to. Number 6, and this is a big one. No instant dungeon finder. Do you often complain about how the modern MMORPG genre has become a pool of people standing in a major city, using the group finder to team up for a dungeon, getting teleported there instantly, and completing it with no real interaction? Do you often wish for the days of having to actually talk to people, then travel to the physical dungeon entrance and all walk inside to do the dungeon together? Well, that's what you've got to do. Organise your party, physically journey there, then go inside. 7. The music. Good God, the music. I will link the soundtrack in the description below. It's stunning. It's just absolutely bloody brilliant. From epic battles to peaceful glades, haunting castles or serene snow-covered mountains, Runes of Magic has some of the best video game music ever. Number 8. The lack of available information creates a sense of adventure. Remember when you played your first MMORPG, whatever it may be, and you had no idea what to do, where to go, or how things happened, and this created a wonderful sense of discovery, where you had to learn through trial and error, a time before absolutely everything was documented and codified, a time before you had to know the most efficient rotation and set up already pre-planned, and you had to actually make decisions about what you thought was best. Well, Runes of Magic isn't popular enough to have a complete wiki, meaning most of us don't actually know where to find the rare items, or what to do to get those amazing powers, or how to build the best character. Sure, there are a few guides out there, but they're either outdated or plain wrong. The lack of available info means I personally feel like an explorer, walking into uncharted territory. How tough are the enemies? What drops the best gear? What tactics do I need to defeat this dungeon? The answer to all these questions are, I don't know. and until I or my team personally try, we'll have no way to find out. And I absolutely love that. When I walk into a new map, I have no idea. I can't Google it. I can't watch a YouTube guide. I have to hope, potion up, and go and explore. 9. The smaller player base creates tighter communities. World of Warcraft has millions of players, and with such a large player base sometimes comes a strange problem. You can actually feel much more lonely. When surrounded by people, but connecting with no one, you're forced to confront the reality that more players doesn't necessarily mean more connections. You often end up with an entire crowd with everyone feeling alone. Runes of Magic doesn't have the luxury of a crowd, so bumping into another player is always a cause for a friendly hello or a short group quest. If you want to give the game a go, I'll leave a link to our Discord in the description below. Come and join us, and I promise we'll say hi in-game. There aren't many of us, but it is a friendly group of people. Number 10. It's still not dead. Despite only having 200 to 400 active daily Steam players, and maybe 2,000 to 3,000 client players, it's still receiving updates, still has a Twitter, still sees major expansions. It's fighting, and while it will never ever be the dominant market force that I genuinely think it could be, it's still a beautifully fun game. Still active, still free, still playable right now. So that's 10 good points. What about the bad? Well, its localization from German to English sometimes misses vital information on quest objectives. It doesn't highlight the map for where you need to go, so it's kind of essential to download some add-ons and mods to make the quests easy enough to understand. The rune extraction system is so complex, even after watching every video and reading every guide, I still don't understand it. The graphics are stuck in 2000s, the combat can feel clunky, some encounters are crazy unbalanced, you can often crash in the main city because of an unfixed memory leak bug. When you reach the end game, you don't have to, but will be encouraged to spend money, and unless you do have friends that play, the world can sometimes feel empty. Despite all the flaws, all the errors, the awkward systems, the lack of convenience, the lack of players, the difficult combat, the frustrating exploring, despite all of this, Runes of Magic has enough good. It has enough brilliance hiding under the surface, and it is, in my opinion, the most underrated MMORPG in the world. If you're looking for an old school feel, with traditional combat, and so little information available that you have to be the trailblazer, the explorer, the discoverer of new things, then give Runes of Magic a go. It's free on Steam, and if you have any questions, you can drop me a comment below or message me in-game. I play on the Idun server, player name Strife. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.